Yeah, it helps a lot. Obviously, every team has their designated players, so to speak, and obviously, every team has a lot of good players that aren't designated players, but your designated players are your designated players for a reason. And Tomas is a DP for a reason. He's got goals in him, and he's hungry to score. On a personal level, I'm just really proud of him for getting back and going through the long road and journey to recover from an ACL. So it'll be a nice moment when he finally gets his chance to go back in the game to help us hopefully win the game and push us over the top. And I think that's the key. We've been in every game. We've been playing much better. We've been creating a lot more chances. So if you put a few guys in there that have just even a little bit more quality in those moments where we get in around goal, we feel like that can be what pushes us over the top.
So all of Atlanta's matches have been, these really close margin games with a difference of one goal, win or lose. So what is it that you do to ensure that you go out and you're that extra bit that ensures that you're on top?
Yeah, I think as MLS, the margins are tight in every game in MLS. It's a league of parity. Every team has good players and good coaches, and every team is very competitive, and it's hard to predict who's going to win in any given weekend in our league. With Atlanta, they're one of the most talented teams in the league. When I look at them, Garth Lagerwey's done an unbelievable job of building that roster. I don't think they have a weakness in any position when you look at their team, and they hired a great coach who I really respect. And Ronnie Delia, and obviously he's won an MLS Cup, and so they're the total package. They haven't, maybe, been flying like they probably want, but they're going to, with where they're at right now in the season, with this being a home game, they're gonna want to, for sure, be extremely aggressive to get 3 points against us. So it's going to be one of our most difficult games of the year.
Now, Caleb, this is your second time facing Atlanta United this season. Obviously, you played them in preseason. What takeaways can you use from that first matchup, and how would you say your group has evolved in the past 2 months to then face them again for the second time?
Yeah, I mean, preseason you don't take a ton from. Obviously, I think at that time, we're 2.5 weeks in, 3 weeks maybe in to what we were building. We're doing different things now. We're playing different players as well now. They didn't have their full roster together either, and they're doing different things as well. So not a ton to take from that preseason game. We'll take more from watching their recent games that they've played. What we're trying to do is continue with the good play in the last 2 games in particular. The chances we've created, the amount of moments we've gotten in around the goal, our good defending. So we're trying to keep that, but then we're also trying to find a few little wrinkles that will push us over the top. And so, we'll make decisions again, and the way we'll play in this game, like always, will be with the goal of winning the game. And for me, I'm happy with the last couple games in terms of the evolution. Not happy with the result last game, but I do still think there's more in our group. Obviously, with 2 really good players in the attack coming back, that'll help. But I feel like there are a couple little adjustments we can make that will push us over the top.
And then one more for me. Obviously, you just spoke on the 2 players coming back. How important is it for players like Luca Langoni and Ignatius Ganago to kind of find their stride and build confidence from this game?
Yeah, they need to, you know how it goes. If they find that first goal, the floodgates open, the confidence grows, and both those players, especially with Leo out and especially with Chancalay out, Carlos is going to find goals. He's going to play well, but you need your supporting players, even a Maxi Urruti. You need those guys to step up and score. And all those players are getting in good positions to do that. They just have to finish.
Frank Delapo, we'll go to you next. Frank, you're unmuted now.
Hey, Caleb. When you came in last year, one of the first players you brought in was Ali Ivasic. Just talk about what you saw in him before he got here and how he's performed.
I think Ali's had a great year. Doesn't mean he's been perfect, but I think he's performing really well right now. He's made saves in every game. I don't think the defending's been an issue this year. We've been very organized every single game. It's why we've been in every single game against good teams. We've been organized defensively. We've pressed well. We haven't given away a ton of chances. But when called upon, Ali's really done well to make saves. And, obviously if you're nitpicking, there are going to be goals you look at and say, could have done a little better here or there. But for the most part, I feel like, he's been doing his job. And he's a great leader as well and a good guy in the locker room.
Go to Sam Minton next. Sam, you're unmuted now.
Hello, Caleb. Hope you're doing well. Just kind of wanted to ask, you touched upon it after last game, but just as the coach, just how do you balance, the quality of play and, maybe improvements you're seeing on the pitch with, this kind of being a results-driven business. I guess as a coach, how do you view that, and then how do you kind of instill that in your players?
Yeah, I mean, I know that you have to win. So you don't need to instill that in a professional player or professional coach. That's in our DNA. That's in our blood. We want to win everything we do. Otherwise, we're not where we're at. So if anything, it's just making sure that when they don't win, they don't get frustrated to the point where they lose energy and stop doing, the good things that they've done in the last two games. It's been much better the last two games in terms of the balance, in terms of the chance creation. You can't say in those two games that we're not creating enough chances, and we're not working hard and we're not organized. If you're saying that, you're not watching the same game I am. In saying that, we didn't win the last game. So, ultimately the bottom line is we didn't get a result. But the last two games, we're on the right track. But I still think that we can step up in moments, finish plays better. I said it early in the week, have more killer instinct in the boxes. And I still think we can find perhaps a few more wrinkles, a few adjustments that'll help us, make that breakthrough and push us over the top.
One more question from Seth. Seth, you're unmuted now.
Hi, Coach. Thanks for taking the time. Just curious with Leo and Chancalay needing a little bit more time. Thoughts on Maxi Ruby, and we saw Ganago play up top. You've been working with him. Thoughts of him as an up top option.
Yeah. Again, we're trying to do what we think is best to win every game. When you look at the last two games, we played really well in both first halves. Maxi was in those games. Obviously, our adjustment you've seen in the last two games is to push eventually Ganago up top and bring on a winger. Obviously, against Red Bull, that unlocked the game. In the last game, we played much better actually in the first half than we did in the second half. We should have, with a little more luck, we should have been up in that half. I didn't think at the end of the game we created enough. So those are things you look at. But Ganago's part winger, part forward. He's played as a 9. He's played a winger. He's played a 2 front. Those are all things we're aware of. Again, we know we have 2 strikers coming back. So our decisions short term and long term will be with those things in mind.